So anytime we're working with a shape that's this symmetrical, um, we really don't want to have to try to correct every one of these wiggly lines. So um, the first step is to basically isolate the parts that are working for us and then delete the rest and duplicate the rest of the stuff around. We have a little bit of an awkward situation with this one because we have one nice clean edge loop here and one clean edge loop here, and that's all we're going to need, but unfortunately they're not right next to each other, so we're going to have to do a couple of preliminary steps. So first of all, I'm going to go into um, a top view just so I can see which of these is working best for me. So I'm thinking that it's going to be um, this one and this one. Now, somehow along the way, we've ended up with even a little bit of crookedness on this, so we will just have to kind of straighten some of these out, even on the ones that are working for us. So I'm going to just scale this, and with our scale tool settings, make sure that we have prevent negative scale turned on. That way, when we just scale this down flat, we're completely straightening that out. I'm going to do the same thing for this one. Okay, and what that means now is I can select this, and unfortunately Maya won't let me select just edges. So we're gonna have to preserve some of these faces as well, and then we'll come back through and we'll throw away this edge loop and this edge loop. But for now, we need to select the whole faces to preserve that. So with those selected, this is the edge loop I'm going to keep. This is the edge loop I'm going to keep over here. This one's for corners. This one's for midsections. And then I'm going to invert the selection. Control Shift I will do that, and then just delete the faces. Then I'm going to go back into edge mode, and I forgot to actually snap this to, not once it was scaled, I want to actually snap it to the grid, so hold X and just pull it that way. It wasn't very far off, but I just wanted it to be essentially perfect there. Then I'm going to go back into object mode, and I notice our pivot has been left behind down here. So when we're moving objects around, especially if we're doing radial symmetry kind of things, it's important to put that pivot point right in the center of what we're going to need. So I'm just going to hold D to change the pivot, hold V to snap the vertices, hold the middle mouse button to just drag all three axes at once and drag to right there. And then similarly, instead of middle mouse, I'm just going to drag with left mouse on this arrow and we'll snap it to right there. So now we should be right in the center of these two. And then I'll grab this and we'll select this whole chunk, go to my rotate mode. In my rotate options, I can change the rotate center. Default, it's going to be using the current selection, but I'm actually going to change this to object, and that's going to use the pivot point that we just moved. And then if we hold J, we should be able to snap incrementally, which I believe right about there is what we need. I think that's right. Yeah. So it's J will snap in whatever increments you've got over here, which 15 degrees. Um, Okay, so snapping in the 15-degree increments, we end up where we need. And we don't care about this overlap here. Like I said, we're going to throw that away in just a moment. In fact, let's just do that now. Rather than trying to snap each of these, we can do a little trick where I'm just going to grab that edge loop. I'm going to move it over. And I don't care that it's all wonky. I'm just going to double click to get this edge loop as well. And we'll bridge these two edge loops together. And this got the connection we need, but we don't need this loop anymore. So now we can control delete that and bam, we have fixed it. And then we don't need these anymore. So we'll just go into face mode and we can finally get rid of this now that these two pieces are connected to each other. Hooray. So now we've got these really cleanly put together. We know that one's straight because we straightened it out before. We know this one's straight because we straightened it out before. And we know that the pivot point is where it needs to be. So now what we can do is a duplicate special. So let's go up to edit, duplicate special, which is Control Shift D, but we always want to open up the options for this because it's going to have whatever we used previously, and I use this all the time, so it's changing all the time. We can always do edit, reset settings, but that's still not going to get you exactly where you need because you got to customize some of this stuff. We could go with an instance, but I don't know if it's going to help us terribly much in this particular case for what we need. An instance just means that once the duplicate has been created, it actually preserves the mesh data is actually linked between the duplicates. So if you change one, the other ones change as well, which is really nice, but it's kind of overkill for what we need here. So a copy is going to be just fine. I'm going to scale along the z-axis here. So we come down here, 0, 0, 0, make sure that's zeroed out, otherwise you're going to get unexpected transforms. X, Y, Z, and we'll do -1 so that it flips along that axis. Number of copies, 1 for now is just fine. I'm going to hit apply. And what happened? We did not get the one I was expecting. Okay, it's because our channels are locked. I'm not sure how that ended up happening. So I'm going to unlock selected for those, and we will try that duplicate again. There we go. That's exactly what I want to see. So now we have those two duplicated there, and that's coming together just fine. So now I want to actually merge those, and I'm going to come up to my join settings here. Actually, go to Mesh Combine, and it's important to go into your options box for this one because we want to maintain that pivot point that we have before. If you don't set this, it's going to throw away the pivot point and we'll be screwed for the rest of this process. So change pivot point instead of world origin or center, last object. Okay. And none of the rest of that matters for this particular case. So apply and close. There we go. They've been merged together. Go into vertex mode. Even though the objects were merged, we still have leftover verts. So I'm just going to box select over those, and we should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll probably see 16. There it is. It says 16 as I suspected. So we have duplicates there. So I'm just going to merge vertices right there, and we end up with 8, just like what we should have. I'm going to go back into object mode here, and we're going to bring up the duplicate special one more time. Edit duplicate special with the options, and once again, we don't need this flip that's happening on the z-axis. So I'm going to change that back to regular one, not -1 anymore. And then I believe it's 30 degrees that we need for each of these. So we will rotate along X, Y 30, and we'll increase the number of copies to 5, and we'll hit apply. And I was off, so we'll undo that, and we actually want, I think it's 60 degrees. And apply. Okay, so that is working for us. Now what we'll see here is that unexpected from what I was thinking we were going to get earlier, the inside is looking good, but the outside isn't lined up. So rather than having to fix these each manually, I'm actually going to undo that, and this time I will do instance, because it is going to help us this time, and we'll hit apply. There we go. So now, if I go into edit mode on any one of these, they're actually all linked together. So now I can grab this couple of edges, 1, 2, 3. I'm going to leave the bottom and the other ones intact. Going to go into my move tool. Going to hold V to snap the vertices. Drag this one up and snap it to there. And that did not. Oh, let me move the pivot of it first because we want to be along with that vert right there. Then snap it to there. There we go. That's number 1. And then the other one, oh, that's going to have to be fixed as well. So one more time, I'm just going to delete these faces. Again, you could always fix these things by hand, but I hate doing things by hand. I like doing them the much easier way. So now that this is here, I'm going to grab this one. I'm going to duplicate. Let's see, what do I want to do? I'm going to combine all of these. Combine. And then I'm going to delete the history, scale this along Z by -1. Oops, scale, -1. I forgot to duplicate. Duplicate it first. Then scale the duplicate by -1. There we go. It's in place. I'm going to grab these. I'm going to combine them. And we'll probably need to, we'll definitely need to merge them again. So let's do that. Grab these. Shift, merge vertices. Bam. There we go. Very clean. We've got clean straight lines along all of them now because we started with just a few clean lines, and we've got everything else in place the way we needed it. So the other thing is that we want to make sure that the edges are actually properly hardened. Anytime that we do that kind of duplicate special style merging or mirroring kind of stuff, we're going to end up with hard cutoffs where they merge together. So just select the mesh, go up to mesh display, soften/harden edges. Usually its default settings are going to do us just fine. Boom. There we go. Smooth on the inside, hard on the edges. That looks good to me. Don't forget to delete history. And on this one, our pivot point is still there in the center. We should definitely make sure that our models are back here before we freeze those transforms. So I'm going to hold not D, because we want to move the actual model. Hold X, snap that to the center of the grid, and we could probably raise that up a bit. If we hold D, we can click on this right here to do it in a line, which will also center the pivot point on that edge. And then once again, we can hold X, drag that up and down to snap it perfectly to the grid. Boom, grab this one, hold D, hold X, put the pivot point right back in the center, delete the history, freeze the transforms, and now we have a finished piece.